Good morning and welcome back. So we promised you a video about the open ocean or the open sea. Since we're only in the Mediterranean, I'm a little shy to talk about an ocean, but here we are. We left Croatia a couple of hours ago, and as you can see, we cannot see any land already. What we did see already though is, well, the fluke of a whale at least least 4 dolphins. So there's wildlife out here, which is always good news. And well, not too many boats actually. We had 1 container ship earlier, 2 other sailboats, 1 big motorboat. That's about it. So until now, nice and quiet, but the night is yet to come. And also the busy shipping lanes that are middle down the Adriatic Sea are yet to come. For everything that we can't see, there's a lot more space underwater. So we are actually about to cross the 1000 meter depth limit right now. And the deepest point of the Adriatic actually goes down to more than 2000 meters. So it is, even though a small sea, it is fairly big. And as you can see right now, we are horribly becalmed. All the wind that you do see and hear is actually homemade. So powering through. So welcome back to another session. In the last week we just crossed the Adriatic Sea. So we went from Cavtat in Croatia, which is the last checkpoint in the south, all the way to Brindisi in Italy. So around about 120 nautical miles, or more or less 240 kilometers. Took us about 30 hours, half of it was under pure sail and the rest was motor sailing. But what we are really here to talk about today is all the things that we found along the way. Now, we were looking out for a couple of things. We were mostly keeping an eye out for marine mammals, which we did find quite a few of, including dolphins, so the common bottlenose dolphins, the striped dolphins, and even the rhesus dolphins, which we have not spotted anywhere else before. Well, not us anyways. But we also had a single sighting of a whale fluke, which is always nice to see. And the other thing we always keep an eye out for is marine debris. So basically we have this little slate in the cockpit and we note down every sighting of plastic that we see floating past the boat. Now keep in mind, when we do that, we really can just cover a small area close to the boat, as smaller pieces are just not that visible when they're further away. And also, if the waves are bigger, we see less. If the water is flat, we see a lot more. And we did encounter a lot of plastic, and not just on the trip across the sea, but basically on a daily basis we find around 50, 60, 70 pieces of plastic, while we see dolphins every couple of days. So the ratio is not really the best on that regard, but plastic is in the ecosystem, in the marine environment, and it does cause issues. While plastic is not as such a big problem, it's mostly aesthetical, not pleasing. Let's just put it that way. But the thing that happens with plastic is that it just falls apart. It does not decompose, it just doesn't disappear. It is made to last forever, and that's what it's designed to do, and it does an incredible job in doing that. The trouble is, with sun and salt water, which is the enemy of pretty much any material, the plastic starts to crumble. So it gets brittle, it breaks into smaller and smaller pieces, and eventually you have what we call microplastic. So that basically defines anything that's smaller than about half a centimeter in size, and it accumulates in lots of, well, in great amounts. So the Adriatic itself has a circular current, which means the water streams up the Italian coast and comes back down the Croatian coast. So in the middle, where we sail through, where the water is actually more than 2,000 meters deep, there's a bit of a circle going all the time. So this is where a lot of it accumulates. Now, all this microplastic doesn't affect us in the first part, but it does find its way back to us. So what happens to it is that usually it gets eaten by any animal that usually feeds on plankton. Because the particles are so small, the animals confuse them for plankton and they eat them. Now, one thing that microplastics also do is that they basically act as a sort of magnet. So they attract all the toxins that we put in the plastic. And no, we don't put toxins into the plastic because we like toxins. It's usually things like softeners, coloring, all the extra features that we want from plastic are added in sorts of chemicals. Now, the microplastic attracts those and they stay with the microplastic for a while. So when, say, a small fish eats this microplastic, all the toxins remain in the fish while the plastic itself cannot be digested. So that goes straight out the other side, but the toxins remain. Now, all these toxins will eventually work their way up the food chain. So small fish gets eaten by a bigger fish, by a bigger fish, by a bigger fish, by a tuna. And then some of us end up eating the tuna. And in every single step of this entire food chain, as a rule of thumb, we can say more or less 10 times. So that means a fish that grows to, say, 1 kilogram has to eat about 10 kilograms of other fish to grow to that size. But also, a fish that weighs 1 kilo eats a lot of small fish that have all these toxins inside their body. So basically, what comes out of it is that the amount of toxins in the body of the bigger fish is about 10 times higher than inside the smaller fish. That again means, since we are going up a couple of steps before we eat the fish, that the food that we eat has about 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 times the amount of toxins in it that previously were in the sea. So that again means that the waste that we dump into the sea comes back to us, basically magnified about 1,000 times. So since we're talking about the high seas, let's talk about what actually is the high seas. For many people it is the point where you can turn around on your boat and you don't see any land anymore. In reality, it's more of a virtual line that countries like to draw, just like a border. So out to 12 nautical miles away from the coast, the water still belongs to the country. 12 nautical miles being about 24 kilometers. So once you're past that barrier, you are in what's called international waters, and legally this is where the high seas start.